All right, everybody. Hello, hello, hello. We're so happy to have you here. Hello, welcome. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Wow. It's so wonderful to see so many of you here and folks are trickling in. We just want to first say thank you so much for being here today. Thank you for taking the time on your wonderful, precious weekend. But then again, who knows? In pandemic world, do we even have weekends? Do we know when time starts or stops? We're not really sure, right? All right, great. So we're gonna have fun today with each other. I wanna go ahead and introduce myself. My name is Sophia Armen. I am very, very happy to be here with you all. I'm with the Armenian Action Network. I'm gonna go ahead and just let you know about what we are doing here today. We are here joined with wonderful organizations in the Armenian American community, Armenian organizations in the United States. And we're here to hear about all of the incredible work that they've been doing. And we're really here to think about and uplift the voices of people who are on the next generation of our struggle, not only in the United States, but are actually, affecting change around the world, including in our homeland. So we're very, very happy that you have joined us here today. We send you not only goodwill, but we hope you and your loved ones are safe and healthy. And we know that we have a lot of work to do, right, everybody? Yes, and that's why we're here today. We're here today to talk about the work that's being done and how you can offer up your hands, offer up your voice, offer up, your heart to get involved in these incredible organizations. So thank you so much for being here. I'm going to go through a little bit about what we're going to do here today. We're going to hear from our lovely panelists. We're going to hear about the work they're doing, what motivates them, how they got started, what they've been doing, and how you can get involved. We're then going to offer up a little bit of a question and answer portion. We'll take just a couple questions and you're going to be directing those questions at Miss Susie Abajan, who's here, who's part of our Armenian Action Network folks. And when it comes there, we're gonna ask you to put your questions in the chat. We'll open up the chat for you to direct those questions at Susie, okay? And then we'll end and close together thinking about just sitting on all of the incredible, ideas that we heard from our wonderful folks today. We'll be inspired to go on and organize ourselves. And I really want to encourage folks who joined us here today, whether you know these organizations, whether you're just hearing about them for the first time, these spaces are here for you. They're here so that you can be part of Armenian organizing in the United States. And so I encourage you to not only reach out after these panelists speak, but to support and uplift their work. Do y'all hear what I'm saying? Yes, amazing. All right, so before I hand it off to wonderful Susie, who's gonna give us just a brief background on Armenian Action Network, I just wanna ground us in a couple things. For one, I'm coming from Los Angeles, which is Tongva and Kizh land. And so also many of us who come from histories of genocide also then are in a country with its own history of genocide and its own history of kind of ongoing colonization, displacement, etc. And so we just want to make sure we understand and locate where we are. And then secondly, I really want to encourage everybody, as we're hearing these wonderful speakers here today, to think about what leadership means in these moments. These last several months for the Armenian community across the world, but especially and specifically in our homeland, have been, not only deeply chaotic and traumatic and horrific in so many ways, but also what I want to say is that in these moments, leadership, you really see who steps up, right? And I want to mention that leadership is not just about our moments of comfort and when things are going well, but also what you do in moments of crisis. And so today we have incredible people who not only keep stepping up, right, but who are actually leading important work and visions and models for how we can think about US Armenian organizing in the future. And so we're so honored to have people here today. We have so many wonderful voices, and we're going to get to hear from all of them. And then we'll get to hear from you as well. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and pass it to Susie, who's going to give us a little bit of background on Armenian Action Network.
Welcome, everyone. It's great to have you with us. Armenian Action Network is the U.S. digital advocacy and storytelling platform of Armenian Americans, immigrants, refugees, and allies fighting for social, economic, and global justice. We address the needs and issues of Armenian communities in the United States through effective advocacy, services, and research. We focus on fighting anti-Armenian racism in the US and protecting our community's civil rights. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Susie. All right, so that's a little bit about who's bringing us all together here today. And now we get to hear from our wonderful organizations. We're going to go down the line for each of these questions and just encourage you to really open up your ears and listen to the incredible work that's happening right now. All right, so we're going to start off with our first question to our panelists, which is, what does your organization do? In other words, what's its mission? And how did you all come together or form? I'm going to go ahead and start with Carene from Yerazad, please.
Yes. Hello, everyone. Nice to see you. Nice to see all your faces. I'm Carene Mekertichyan. I'm also coming at you on the unceded Gabrieleño Tongva land, also known as Los Angeles. And Yerazad is a fresh, brand new organization. We launched publicly January 19th on MLK Day. And we have been organizing and having meetings with our smaller coalitions since, I want to say November, October-ish. So in the middle of, I don't want to call it a war, but in the middle of the genocidal attack. And the way that we formed was Joel Weissel Martirosyan reached out to me and a couple other people who are part of our organizing collective. And we noticed that there was a gap in what we were seeing from current organizing with regards to making sure that there was a space that was safe and welcoming to all Armenians. So meaning Armenians who are mixed race, Armenians who are LGBTQIA2S, Armenians who are undocumented. We wanted to make sure that we had that safe space and that we were also on top of the policy advocacy and that organizing that we're doing, we wanted to make sure that we were working on coalition building and standing with other communities in a way that's genuine, a way that is not transactional, not just showing up for communities because we expect them to do something for us. So making sure that we are standing with other marginalized people, standing with Black Lives Matter, standing with our indigenous communities here, because I love it. I love that we as a people and as a community have caught on to the term and our indigeneity and have been speaking about this. But as you mentioned earlier, we need to be aware of those of us in the diaspora who are on indigenous land. We are occupying indigenous land, so making sure that we are standing with those communities. So just in short, we're centered on Armenian liberation and transnational solidarity. And eventually our bigger goal is to invest in green energy, green technology, green jobs in Armenia and Artsakh, because we wanted to think about a way that we could give back to Armenia and Artsakh proper.
Thank you so much. Wonderful. Haig, can you tell us a little bit about AYF, please?
Hi, everybody. My name is Haig Minasian. I'm here in Orange County, California, and I'm representing the Western United States AYF, Armenian Youth Federation. And I know everyone here might know about the AYF, or you might have been in the AYF or gone to its events, but I figured I'll give you guys like a quick rundown on how the org works. It's set up by region. So the AYF is global. It's in most diasporas has an AYF. And in the United States, we have the Western United States and we have the Eastern region. So I'll be repping the Western United States today. But it does have a global presence, and which is cool. You know, I have comrades in every country around the world working towards the same thing, which is awesome. And we're all working towards the same end, you know, collaborating and cooperating, which is really cool because we know that the Armenian experience and the Armenian diaspora is very diverse. It's all over the place. And so when we're able to kind of cooperate and collab like this on an international level, it gives us a really cool perspective on what to do in terms of Armenian liberation, let's say. But within our region, on the Western United States, we have 14 chapters from Houston to San Francisco, Fresno to my chapter in Orange County. The AYF is decentralized in nature. It's super democratic, where we are always voting on bodies and executive groups, and we're always auditing each other and reviewing each other's work. So, and we have very strict bylaws that we adhere to. And, you know, once a year we have a convention where we all come together as all the chapters and we vote on resolutions and in projects. So very democratic. But that word federation in Armenian Youth Federation, it translates to Dashnak Tutun in Armenian. And if the definition of federation is an organization or group within which smaller divisions have some degree of internal autonomy. And so after the genocide, you know, there's all these different Armenian diasporas around the world and in the United States specifically, but just kind of like how in 1890, when the Armenian liberation movement was starting off, there was all these independent little groups going on. And so this federation's ideal was to, you know, bring it all together and unite so that we can be a more powerful force. Obviously that's hard with Armenians, but that was the essential theme, you know? So, and so for the longest time, the AYF in the United States has been, you know, one of those main youth organizations, you know, fighting for Armenian justice, if that was for our past, you know, justice, the genocide, Artsakh, Armenia, even for Armenian rights in the different diasporas, let's say Iran, Lebanon. But what we do and what our goals are is we strive for a free, independent, united Armenia. It strives for a democratic, egalitarian, socialist society in our homeland, foster cultural identity in the diaspora through the AYF's 5 pillars, which is like political, cultural, educational, athletic, and social. Repatriation is a big theme of our work, going back to Armenia, the liberation of our ancestral homelands, our indigenous homeland, and then justice for our ancestors, justice for our people today. That's essentially what the AYF is.
Wonderful. Thank you so much, Haig. Okay, and we have Carene here from Kooyrigs. Can you go ahead for us? How did you?
Hi, everyone. It's an honor to be here. Sorry, Sophia, I cut you off a little. I was just excited to get started. I'm actually reporting to you live from our ancestral homelands. I'm currently in Yerevan, Armenia. I got here 3 days ago. It's 2:30 a.m. I'm so happy to be here. Well, a little later now, not like 3 a.m. But I essentially started Kooyrigs nearly 2.5 years ago. Truly, it was born out of a place of wanting to connect with Armenians on a deeper level and talk about taboo issues in our community and just create a space for all Armenians, similar to how Carene was saying. And that has truly evolved throughout the war. Sophia was saying, you know, how we all have had to step up, especially leaders within our communities, and figure out how we can contribute, where our skills can really better Armenia. And in that time, Kooyrigs truly evolved from a social network and connecting space to creating tangible impact in Armenia through grassroots work. And by that, we mean supporting rural Armenians and creating sustainable programs that not only boost Armenia's economy, but also provide human rights aid in the meantime. And so Kooyrigs has not been around for very long. However, we had created a lot of great impact, especially considering what has recently happened with the Artsakh war. And it is essentially our goal to connect all Armenians and to connect them in the motherland as well. And I think what the really important link here is the connection between diaspora and local Armenians. And it's our hope that through our network, through the conversations that we have, and through the exposure and content that we're able to provide that's on a higher quality level, that we're able to really communicate our experiences through art, through culture, and really communicate in a digital means that creates tangible impact, and taking those digital transactions and turning them into real on ground change, which is what we saw during the Artsakh war. So I'm really honored to be here. Thank you for having me. And I'm excited to learn more about all these organizations.
Amazing. Look at all this brilliance. Incredible. Maral, if you can tell us about GALAS, how you all started and what your mission is.
I feel like we're the, hello, hi, Maral Kooyrigs representing GALAS here. I feel like we're the grandmas or the grandpas, you know, the OGs of the group, because we started in 1998 before the internet really existed. It really was an opportunity. One of our co-founders put an ad in a newspaper. Are you gay? Are you lesbian? You know, do you, and left her telephone number basically. And people called and she got death threats and, you know, not, you know, I can't say, hopefully a lot has changed since then, but there are still some of those things happening still in our community. So we started in 1998. We're on the cusp of our 25th anniversary. And GALAS has been, I think, a stronghold within the community to really represent the queer community. It's an all volunteer board. So we really have been doing as much as we can with programming and meeting the needs of our communities to really feel and represent that queer Armenian community and identity. How many times can I say community? But yes, I mean, I think it's really important to really emphasize that. And some of the feedback that we get from our events is that, you know, I didn't think I could be Armenian and queer, and to have that coexist. And that always gives me great hope and great joy and real inspiration and motivation to be part of GALAS, because here we are creating a platform or creating, you know, a space that's safe, that you can really connect with people. And why I said we were around since 1998, you know, all these folks who've been around since 1998 have long, you know, standing relationships, and it's been a beautiful evolution. So, you know, and it's really been a wonderful opportunity to really try to have a stronghold within the community, to Armenian community and the community at large, to say that we're here and, you know, don't look at us as other, and we're here to represent. So it's really a great opportunity to connect with you all and everyone here, and excited to see what, as we get closer to 25 years, what that looks like for us too, in 2023, which is just a heartbeat away, and we'll probably be able to socialize by then. So, but you know, yeah, you know, all we can do is raise awareness and connect with folks, and really, you know, work with our sister organization like Pink Armenia in Armenia, and really help support their cause, because they're really fighting the fight day in and day out too.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Maral. And there's no way you could say community too many times, because that's what we're here to build. Not only community love, but also community power, right? Because we need it. So it's great. I'm going to turn next to Seppu, please, from Zoravik. If you can tell us about your organization and how you all got started.
Hi, everybody. It's Seppu Agababian. So I'm with Zoravik. So Zoravik, which in Armenian means in solidarity, it's an activist group formed in Boston, and it came to life after the Velvet Revolution in Armenia, and inspiration. So Armenian activists, intellectuals, I would say, and academicians came together and formed a group. However, we have now members that are from elsewhere, East West Coast, as well as we have members in Europe and Armenia. So anyways, this is about Zoravik. I will read the information about Zoravik and what Zoravik represents. That will be easier, so I will not miss out important information about nature of Zoravik. And first of all, we are a non-hierarchical organization. So that's how we operate. We have a collective of activists that share a commitment to universal progressive ideals, and we consider those are fundamental to Armenians and others alike. We are not a political organization as such, and in traditional sense, and we are self-funded by small member donations. We are not dependent to any party, structure, or institution, and seek to supplement the work of existing groups with novel ideas and approaches. In a sense, we strive to create a much needed space for bringing together diverse and new voices in our community and beyond. So I will now describe our work. As Armenians, we care deeply about Armenia and about fostering homegrown progressive initiatives there. Over the last 3 years, we have fundraised and raised awareness, including collecting petitions in our community for the protesters in Amulsar, as you know, against the gold mining there. And we have supported feminist and LGBTQ activists in Armenia. Our most recent activities have been around organizing panels and writing op-eds on the war on Artsakh. However, because we believe that in solidarity lies justice for all, we have not limited our efforts to Armenian issues only. We uphold the human and civil rights of all individuals, women, persecuted minorities, marginalized immigrants, LGBTQ individuals, and other underserved groups, as well as with those fighting for social, economic, and environmental justice. As a collective, we believe that everyone deserves not only a right to live freely and in peace, but that this right comes with an obligation to one another and our planet. We have stood together with others by taking part in Women's March, Black Lives Matter, US election reform, and Palestinian and Kurdish solidarity events, to name a few. We hope that you'll join us and other progressive groups in the mission to promote egalitarian political principles and encourage grassroots activism in the fight for just societies in the Armenian Republic, the diaspora, and across the globe. That is about Zoravik.
Thank you, Sefu. Amazing. Thank you all so much. Sevan, if you don't mind telling us a little bit about your organization and how you all started.
Sure, no problem. Hello, everybody. My name is Sevan. I'm here representing the Hye-Phen magazine. A couple of people here were in the Hye-Phen magazine, including Sophia and Hasmik. So shout out. This is cool. So yeah, the Hye-Phen, it's like a little bit of a roller coaster of a story, but ultimately it started in 2014. I'm from Pasadena. I was living in LA with my family as a queer and non-binary, then like trans man person. And growing up in Pasadena, with even surrounded by lots of Armenians, I thought I was the only queer person. Queer Armenian. And that was terrible. And also there were a lot of issues that I cared about relating to community and identity. Yeah. Anyways, I created a zine, and then I thought I would just be hated for making this zine. And then someone named Hasmik, who's from Oakland, California, bought the zine on Etsy. And then I thought, wow, there are more queer Armenians out there. And then after that, we just created a network of people all around the world, and then ultimately decided, wow, we have a lot of things to say. There are a lot of us, and a lot of the things that we were experiencing were very similar, which is basically, ultimately, I feel like, especially in the first round of the Hye-Phen, was we were a group of people who felt like we couldn't be Armenian. So that's how we kind of came together in whatever ways that we were queer, or in any way, right, and beyond sexuality. So that's how we came together, to have this like very fluid organization that like kind of came and went, but like was like very strong and on fire and beautiful. Yeah, and so now we have a different, we kind of have a different vibe right now. But ultimately our magazine aims to create a space, create visibility for queer and trans Armenians, help us kind of create a community where we all feel, you know, safe and heard, and yeah, and just like enable creative expression and enable us to like create a space where we can start thinking critically about the issues, or like within and beyond our communities, not just about queer and trans issues. So that's a little bit about our platform. So now we're just a host of folks. We were a collective, and now we just make this magazine happen. So yeah, we just want people to be honest within our community.
Thank you. Wonderful. All right. And today we also have Yerazad from CAN, who's going to tell us about CAN and its history.
Hi, folks. Am I unmuted? Yeah. So I'm Yerazad from Union City. So good to be here with this community of people. I might seem like I'm asking questions rather than saying things, and that's just because I think it's an effective way of getting us to think about things the way in the spirit of CAN, right? So what if I were to suggest that there is an interdisciplinary field of study, a human tradition that is devoted to the emancipation of oppressed and marginalized communities just like ours, right? There are academics who have studied it. There are many case studies to learn from. Could we and should we study that interdisciplinary field of study? I would think that most of us would agree that the answer is yes, and that field of study is nonviolence. So CAN is the Coordinating Committee for Armenian Nonviolence. It was originally founded in 2007, which came a lot out of the undergraduate studies of myself and dear friends at that time. We had our first action shortly after the death of Hrant Dink. To my knowledge, we were the first group of Armenians who resisted pro-Turkish, anti-Armenian fascist demonstrations in New York City, Times Square. So at the time, it was kind of foreshadowing the kind of propaganda that we would later encounter. We resisted that, and it was a highly successful action, though, because of the fact that aside from Armenian genocide recognition, there wasn't a whole lot else going on. Everyone's life took a different direction, and so we went dormant. About a week into the war, or as someone rightly said, the genocidal attack, we realized, okay, something's got to be done. And if we had continued doing the work that we started in 2008, we would now have a really important tool for our community that we don't have. So we resolved to start building together. So a number of us came together and we started to do that work. Our objective really is to foster a community of learning where we talk about this tradition of nonviolent civil disobedience being one of the aspects of nonviolence, radical organizing, right? So what is nonviolence? It is not putting pomegranate seeds in Azeri guns. It is not just putting flowers in guns as some people think of it. It's not just a hunger strike. Hunger strikes are an effective form in the right social theater, but it's a very vast tradition with many examples that are relevant to our cause today. So fostering a community that explores that is what we're trying to do, to move away from just political expediency in the way that we organize and toward moral principle instead. Real actual coalition building with other communities and solidarity, and reimagining political resistance in the context of where we are right now as Armenian people. How am I on time? I don't know, I didn't look. Is it over? Am I done? Should I wrap up?
A couple more seconds. Go ahead. Just finish your
Well,
sentence.
so the mandate is just to essentially utilize the political theory of nonviolence to reclaim our place in the media and to reclaim our place in the public imagination. And I think we've really suffered a good deal in this last offensive. And I'll stop there. There's plenty more to say, but there's also plenty of time. So thank you for having me, and it's good to be here.
Thank you so much. Okay, so you heard all this brilliance, as you can hear, right? Starting not only a group, but actually sustaining it, building action, putting out something in the world, right? It requires not only work, but vision and doing it together. Incredible. So my next question for the panelists, especially because we have so many wonderful people here, and I just want to say thank you so much for coming out. We really want to know, now that we've heard your mission, right, how do you put that into action? So what are the campaigns that you have been focused on, the issues that you've been focused on, that you're currently working on? And especially with the last several months with the war, how did you draw attention or education or art or aid or conversation around Armenia and Artsakh specifically? So let's go and start us off again with Carene, if you'll start us.
Yeah, definitely. So for anyone who just recently joined, just again, Yerazad is a very, very fresh group. So we right now are very much in the organizing stages of things, getting things started, but we have been working with our coalitions in New York Illinois, Texas, Washington, and we are going to be having our first New Jersey meeting on local grassroots policy action and all of that, where we've made the point to not really share specifics about any of the policy actions that we're working on until they are done. But other than that, we are also, again, working on reaching out to other communities, specifically Indigenous communities as well, in all of these specific states. And I've gotten a lot of people reaching out to us about when California stuff is going to get started, because we do have a very large community. Right now, I'm in conversation specifically with the Tongva tribe here as well. Just before this meeting, we had our very first event, which was a policy action workshop with Tim Jamal, who has over 30 years of advocacy training experience. So we're going to be having a lot of workshops, also sharing information on our social media pages as well. We talked a lot this past month about intersectionality and the importance of standing in solidarity with the Black community and the fact that Black lives matter. So right now, that's where we're at. There will be much more to come.
Thank you so much. Haig, can you tell us a little bit about what issues AYF is currently working on and how you all specifically plugged in around Armenia and Artsakh, please?
Sounds good. So the AYF has a number of programs. It's again, like it's a big org where, there's dozens of chapters doing their own individual projects. So I'll try to keep it concise, but on a centralized level, the Western United States AYF has, and most related to Artsakh right now, we have this With Our Soldiers initiative, financial support for families who have been displaced from their ancestral homeland, families of fallen soldiers. In addition, we bought medical kits and other supplies for the troops during and before the war, but also worked with Code 3 Angels to teach classes on battlefield medical training. But currently we're in Armenia providing that aid directly to families, which is, I think it's very important that we're there in person as well, because it's, showing that solidarity, giving them that strength and support they need, hearing them out, listening to their stories and their experiences. And you can also support this campaign right now. You could donate to withOurSoldiers.com/donate. You could find the Instagram page too. So, but as you guys all know, 2020 was a crazy year on top of, the pandemic happened. And we had a COVID Armenia project where we raised a lot of funds, and we worked with our AYF Armenia members to then take those funds and go to the rural villages and help provide aid and distribute aid to vulnerable Armenian families in the villages out there. We also did something similar here in Los Angeles, where a lot of our members volunteered to provide aid to vulnerable Armenian families in our community as well. Beirut, I feel bad because I'm going to read over all the things we've done, and it's reminding you of the crazy things that happened this last year. But, we have a huge community in Beirut, and the Beirut blast happened. So we worked with the Armenian Relief Society, raised money for them. One of our coolest programs, AYF Youth Corps, it started off with rebuilding it started in the 90s, 94, and it started off with just rebuilding things, but it's turned into more of a summer camp where our members here will go there and run a summer camp in the rural parts of Armenia and foster that connection between diaspora and homeland. And what's really cool about this is it's become very popular, where in Armenia now, we have camps from every region around the world. So there's an Australian Armenian camp, a Canadian Armenian camp, but it's also reinvigorates our diasporans here, and they feel so much more closely connected with the people out there. My chapter, and specifically, we did this, and with the rest of the AYF, we did this We Are Gyumri project years ago, where we opened up a community center there. We have central councils, and what the central councils are, our AYF members can then go and focus in on certain projects or certain initiatives. So we have the Protest Council, which does a lot of the protests here. We have the Hye-Phen Council that focused on divestment from Turkey, or assisting the ANCA in high votes and census, getting Armenians represented in the census, getting Armenians represented in the voting field. I was chairing the United Human Rights Council this last year, which is that progressive committee of the AYF, which some of us, Sophia's been involved. We were gonna do a project with Kooyrigs too last year till COVID happened, all these things happened. But as a committee, we're United Human Rights Council is the one where we're trying to create those cross-cultural, intersectional connections with other communities. And as a committee, we go attend the BLM march and the different rallies. There was an anti-Iran war, protest that we went to. We raised money for Mercy House living centers for homeless population here, and also raised money for Beirut relief. Sorry, you guys, there's like one or two more things I want to mention. So the Haig Talks and Haig magazine. So the AYF has a publication that we've been running since 1977. We've been running it since, but this year we finally started a digital podcast, the Haig Talks podcast, which I'm getting to co-host. And it's a very cool project where we're just, we're discussing the Armenian experience in the diaspora. We're talking about all different subjects. And then lastly, the AYF juniors. So up until 16, there's the AYF juniors that you can be a part of. And it's very, I remember as like a 13-year-old, it was, a lot of people weren't into it. Why are we coming to meetings on a Friday and talking about reparations and all these political things and revolutionary movements? But it was great for me personally because I could go and bond with a bunch of Armenians on a weekly basis and just cheese out about how great Armenia was. I loved Armenia. And so, for example, this last year, I was helping organize our winter camp where the theme this last year was historical Armenia. And we got to teach the kids about their Armenian roots, their food, their dances. We even got to teach the kids the old games they used to play in Western Armenia from 100 years ago, which was cool. So that's essentially it, and you can imagine that every chapter is also doing their own work. So there's a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, Carene, we'd love to hear about what Kooyrigs is currently working on, and especially what you all have been doing in Armenia and focused on Artsakh.
Of course. So Kooyrigs really did, I'd like to say, take off with impact upon the start of the Artsakh war. And I'd like to say, quite literally, the day after is when we boosted into action. And I know Maro Matosyan is a viewer in this chat. And Maro Matosyan is absolutely phenomenal. And she's the executive director of Women's Support Center, which has been an organization, grassroots in Armenia, who has been providing resources to women and marginalized communities, survivors of domestic violence, and really being an ally within the Armenian community and providing support. And so when the war started, I thought the first thing I could do is reach out to people who have been working in this, since the 90s when they experienced the war the first time around. So I immediately contacted Maro, and Maro said, well, there's a lot of work to do. Of course there was. And one of the first things there was to do was provide hospitals with life-saving medications for the soldiers. As a result of the community that we garnered, because we talked about taboo issues, because we amplified voices of marginalized communities and created a more progressive, safe space for Armenian people, and in a way set off this kind of digital renaissance regarding Armenian culture, we have a large audience, and that audience wanted to act. At the time, there weren't fundraisers that had started. Armenia Fund hadn't kicked off. A lot of things were, the war had just started, so it was very fresh. So it was very important to me to immediately connect with Maro, and once I did, we found out the hospitals needed certain medications, specifically medications to stop, bleeding out, like blood clotting medications and anti-nerve medications and things that could add up and cost quite a bit of money. And it was at a point where it wasn't a matter of, playing a blame game and saying like, this person should be doing this or providing these resources. It's we're all one people and we're jumping into action. And that's what I think is so important about being here today as well, is that regardless of whatever organization we're a part of, we're here today and we're jumping into action. And that's exactly what Kooyrigs did. And as a result of Maro's support and connecting me to people of Stepanakert Hospital and Goris Hospital, where many people were treated because that's very close to Artsakh, and it was also a very violent zone as well, we were able to provide life-saving medication. We raised nearly $10,000 in the first day. Within 3 days, the hospitals were stocked. Our team members had, it's a little fun. My team members had cousins that were serving in the war immediately, and one of them got injured and he was shot in the chest and in the head. And it was literally the medication that our team member Mariam delivered that day. That was also what saved her cousin. So we really felt the implications of the work we were doing, and that was motivation enough to keep doing it, right? So what can we do? How can we go bigger? And Kooyrigs, a month before that, we were helping victims of the Beirut blast as well. Specifically in Beirut, the economy was crashing on top of the blast. And so it made healthcare products inaccessible, especially period products for people who have their periods and couldn't access those things because it was a very high cost, import fees were high. And so quite frankly, we were going back in times in terms of how people were treating themselves on their periods and having access to sanitary care items or lack thereof, right? And so during this time, we really built connections with rural Armenian farmers and various people. And once we had those connections and they were in place, we were able to activate them. And that was what really happened during the Artsakh war. Currently, we have Project Mighty, which is running, which is providing critical resources to pregnant people in Artsakh and in Armenia as well, which is really important because we still have a lot of people who are going back to Artsakh. Nearly, a lot of the population is returning back to their homes if they can, if they're available to. And so we need to make sure they have access to resources as well. And by focusing on rural, companies, not necessarily companies, but farmers and people who produce these resources, we're able to then give back to the community in providing human rights aid. And that's what Kooyrigs has focused on. We have nearly 200 beneficiaries at this moment, and they keep growing and growing and growing, wives of martyred soldiers. And there's a lot of support that needs to be given out. And for nearly like $60 a month, you can help these families. And we just hope to be continuing to fill the gaps that need to be filled. And that's what we're here to do. So yeah, that's us.
Wonderful. I know it's a lot, right? All of the amazing work that everybody's doing. And I'm only giving them a little short time to talk to you, but that's why we need you to be in the field with them, helping them out. All right. Okay, fantastic. Maral, if you can tell us a little bit about what issues you all have been focusing on, that would be fantastic. And then after this segment, we're going to be going into a Q&A.
Perfect. Thank you. It's just amazing hearing all the work that everyone's doing, because as someone who has been around for a while, to see Armenians unified, I know when I started UCLA, the first question I got at the ASA was, what type of Armenian are you? And I'm like, I'm Armenian, and I'm sure that's, there's a common theme where we're all like, hey, are you an IAN or a YAN? Sorry, as you guys were reflecting on all the work that you're doing, and then now we're like, are you queer? Are you straight? What are, and it's just all these questions come up. And to hear, I think the heartbreaking part about Armenia and what happened in Artsakh and the politics and the nature of where we are with things, it's that sustainability piece. But I think the elephant in the room here too is, as outsiders in diaspora, how do we fit in Armenia, right? And I think that is a question that's always we're faced with, because we're seen as people who are not from there. So it's okay, that's a whole nother rabbit hole, but to be on the ground and to do this work and to actually partner with people who are there, that's amazing. And it's, a unifying moment for us, I think, as Armenians. And I think everything that's happened between the pandemic and the civil unrest, or the justice movement that happened, and all the moments in 2020 has really prevailed. What GALAS has really tried to do is provide support. We've been doing an ongoing therapeutic support group. So I think there's just a lot of loss, and there's just a lot going on. So we wanted to provide that safe space with a licensed therapist. So we definitely saw that as an evolution to serve the people on the ground, here. So because if your cup isn't full, you can't serve, right? You can't help, you can't be the best version of yourself. So we've definitely done that. Because of the pandemic, we had this whole education plan. One of our board members, Erica Damian, is one of the experts in the state on education outreach for LGBTQ plus queer issues. So, he's created, along with a couple of our leaders within GALAS, a great outreach program, but COVID just stopped it. And so we really want to get in the schools to kind of like talk about all that. So that's on the cusp.
we've had scholarships. So we've done a lot of things on the ground here. We have scholarships. So if you guys have anyone who's interested in it, that'll be happening in the fall for college age students. And then I think ultimately we try to raise awareness. We try to support our sister and brother organizations, you know, who are on the ground. We've joined protests and, you know, tried to represent in every step of the way. And, you know, have we done as much as we can? I'm sure we can do more. And I think this is going to be an ongoing recovery period for so many reasons. So, you know, I think that in a nutshell, GALAS is here to kind of identify the needs that come up for our community and help serve in that moment.
Amazing. Thank you so much, Mara. And I do see people directing questions to me in the chat about if this is being recorded, and yes, it is, and it'll be available later. Seppo, if you can tell us about what Zoravik is focusing on, important things for people to get involved in.
Sure. I mentioned about some of the work that Zoravik has been doing in the past. So with the change in the scenario in Armenia and Artsakh after the war, somehow our focus has also shifted a little bit. So prior to this, you know, we were supporting some of the activities, progressive activities, including film library and other groups there. Almost are. Recently, after the war, our focus shifted towards covering the media or poor coverage of the media about the war in Artsakh, and we try to reach out to the experts and people who were really trying to bring in a good information. So our recent events have mobilized Zoravik to launch timely forums, regular updates, and analysis by political, cultural, social, and historical experts, and produce op-eds on the war on Artsakh. Our most recent event on media manipulation and the war in Artsakh on February 10, with panelists Lindsay Smell and Carene was one of our attempts to kind of highlight how poor the media did the coverage of the war, and the issue of the false equivalencies that were tried to be put out there. That program has received almost 10,000 views, which is great. So those are kind of major focus for us at this point of time. So Tom DeWall, who has done similar approaches, you know, regarding the false equivalency and things like that. So we have also addressed his coverage or poor coverage. So that has been most of the work that Zoravik has been focused on recently.
Thank you so much, and it's been amazing work. I know that all of us have so enjoyed it. Sevan, if you don't mind talking about what Hye-Phen has been up to, please.
Yeah, so wow, everyone's organizations are so amazing, especially models. So cool. But okay, so what Hye-Phen has been up to, we are a very, very, very small collective, or I wouldn't even say collective at this point, especially now we're just like a small team of people who just are trying to get some shit done and make this website work and just make this like a digital home for people. So we don't really see ourselves as this like group to take action or like to necessarily like, you know, maybe to enable that and enable a conversation. And all of us have just had, like, we're just people who are stretched really thin. And first of all, having our platform exist and having people being able to submit what they want and share their ideas is enough for me at this moment. First of all, so just trying to keep encouraging this space and keeping it alive is a lot of work, and it's awesome. But we've also, our community or our team has been doing a lot of other things. Like we've been trying to do a lot of fundraisers for different organizations for Artsakh, like through like making t-shirts or just like trying to get visibility on social media and all that, all that good stuff. But also two of our team members, Kami and Sarah, are working on some like an event called solidarity, or it's called gatherings, hyphen gatherings, but basically like to try to merge like people in the different Swana movements together and just have conversations about like how we can build solidarity. So so that's happening, but mainly our existence, I'd say we're existing, and that's fantastic.
Yes. And not only is your existence resistance, but just want to mention that, as we know, right, Margaret Mead says it, all good things, they often happen in a small group. We know all large movements in the world have always started with a small group. So Yetvart, we'd love to hear about what CAN has been up to, and especially we know you all have been active during the war.
I'm gonna set a timer for myself. So essentially, in short, you know, the Coordinating Committee for Armenian Nonviolence is inspired by SNCC, Student Nonviolent Action Coordinating Committee, and we are trying to form a resistance community. Essentially, that's what it is. So we busy ourselves with coverage and with conscience. That is to say that we're very much concerned, just like Sebu was saying, about the terrible coverage, the false equivalency, and trying to understand, you know, rather than demanding better coverage and accusing for not getting it, we're thinking, how do we empower and how do we enable better coverage? What are the key stakeholders? How do we communicate to them? How do we use our own personal networks to build coalition with people who are already in progressive politics, who could give us more coverage and should be? Where are the silent allies? How do we reach them? How do we awaken their conscience by following ours? And that's the key thing, right? Awakening other people's conscience while at the same time awakening our own, acting on ours. So we've been doing a number of things. In terms of activism, we would have loved to have more actions, for sure. We had a lot of meetings. We've been hosting regular meetings throughout the atrocities. Really, the focus is on building community, because nonviolence is something that's transformative. It transforms a conflict on the exterior, but it also requires and enables internal transformation, emotionally, psychologically, and even spiritually. So having meetings and a place of learning together is really key. The Micromedia Project is something that we created because of COVID, because we were so limited in going outside, that we started to reach out and create spreadsheets of journalists who are predisposed to talking about this issue, identifying the right conceptual frameworks to speak to them in languages that they understand, and reaching out to them much in the way that a journalist scouts out people to interview. So we were reversing journalism to do the Micromedia Project. Another part is doing a speakers bureau where we invite activists and organizers from other communities to come speak to us. We host them, and this is a way of building community. We had our first action was called Circles of Solidarity, where we held vigil and walked around the Turkish consulate. This was a joint action. It turned out to be a joint action with our local AYF, which was really, really wonderful to just work with other Armenians. I'm just going to wrap it up by saying that the Coordinating Committee for Armenian Nonviolence is a place where we want to not only ask questions like, what's the difference between protest and resistance? What's the difference between a political consciousness of suffering and a political consciousness of resistance, right? Where is our power? What's the difference between activity and action? Like, where does civil disobedience fit in? How do you impact media narratives? What is the right time to act? What are the right key elements? And how do you foster a community that's present with each other, not just physically, but actually builds community where these ideas can take root and you act from there? That's what we're trying to do, is build that kind of resistance community. And we have different people all over the country. I think that's enough out of me. You can hear more by emailing joinCCAN @gmail.com. Such a pleasure to be here with you. I'm done.
Thank you so much. And yes, we'll get to the how to get involved at the very end of our program, but wonderful. Okay, so right now we're gonna ask folks in the audience on the chat to direct their questions to Susie Abajian, please. So if you have a question for our wonderful panelists who are joined here, you heard all this brilliance, you heard all these incredible initiatives that are happening, right? And so you have, I think, a really important opportunity to actually engage people who are envisioning what the next step of Armenian liberation looks like. So Susie, I'm gonna pass it to you. And for those of us who are in the chat, you're gonna wanna direct your questions to Susie Abajian, please.
I haven't received any questions yet, but I'll give people a minute to think about the questions.
Oh, come on, Armenians. I know you have no shortage of thoughts or questions. So this is
Wait, what was the question?
So questions for our panelists. We're going to ask
Questions.
our
So
audience.
I'm getting some questions now.
Excellent.
So the first question is, what are some of the challenges that you have faced in doing the work that you do? And yeah, and particularly in the Armenian community.
Great question.
So I will open it to anybody who would like to answer this question. Not everybody, if you do not want to address it, that's fine. So it's an open question to everyone.
I would be happy to answer. We've actually faced quite a few issues in the Armenian community. I'll keep it short, but we are very strong people. We're a very determined people. But there also are some people that undermine the ability of Kooyrigs and the work we do because we are women. And that's not to say that all Armenians are sexist, but there are people who quite frequently attack our work and quite frankly make it make it difficult for us to do what we do because they don't agree with the progressive values that we hold. And that has been something that we're working on and hoping that through education, we can resolve within the community. And that's why everybody's presence here is so extremely important, especially Sophia's work and Armenian Action Network, because we, Sophia's like, no, it's important because now we're all able to gather in these spaces with like-minded individuals and propel towards change. And that's what we're here to do. So thank you everyone for offering us this space. And we're going to keep doing it regardless of the naysayers, because the work we do creates impact, saves lives, and preserves ancestral homeland. And we're not going to stop.
Anyone else? Yep.
Yeah, I'd speak to that. I would say that I think the biggest challenge I've seen are our expectations of what activism looks like and how I think that we need to really reconsider what activism is, right? What's the difference between just doing protest and having sustained social movement? That's a really important question to ask. And questions like that can't be answered immediately, right? So people will pop in, we'll soak, but then we'll jump out because we're also busy with so many things. That's not a criticism. I understand why that's the case. But to do this kind of work, we need to grow roots together, right? We need to get to know each other. We need to trust each other's politics. We need to get to know one another, find out where we're coming from and where we're going so that action blossoms from that space. And so I think that the expectations that we have of activism within our community are a little bit challenging. There's more to say about that, but I think that we need to change those expectations and see ourselves as engaged in a long haul thing and not just a passing thing. We need to make it a lifestyle.
Yeah, I think that's, sorry, go
ahead.
ahead.
Go ahead, no, go ahead, Sevan.
I was just gonna say, I think it's beautiful. I bet what you're gonna say is also gonna be beautiful. But yeah, we have something similar. We have a similar issue with visibility. Initially, our mission was to get visibility for queer and trans people in our community. And then we got visibility. But what happens after visibility? What do you get? What happens after that? So I think that's something that we struggle with. Just like trying to create something meaningful and right, like long term. So what does that look like?
And I think there's a fear and for change. I think especially for the queer community, if you talk to my kid, they're going to be gay, there's this weird fear mongering going on about influence. But one thing I realized about the Armenian community, it's a small pond with a lot of big fish, and there's a lot of politics and there's a lot of division. And what I'm hoping for this generation, and I'm really motivated and inspired by the Armenian Action Network and this broad-based coalition, that we can actually make some change happen and really address things head on and really tackle major issues and really start solving some of our social issues. But the diaspora is so diverse, and I think therein lies the challenge. But I think we're all up for it, and it's really great to have a unified front because that's the only way change happens with that coalition.
Yeah, I was just going to really quickly say, I think the biggest thing is making sure that the Armenian community tries to get out of being so insular. We are a very insular community. It's understandable given all of the trauma that we've experienced, but we need to get out of that mindset, and we need to understand that it's important to work with and collaborate and support with and show up for other communities at the grassroots local level. That's where the biggest change starts. I think too often in our community, people think that they're just going to go straight to the top. Let's just try and let's get the president to do this. Let's get the president to help. When most change and most direct change in action comes from the grassroots local level. The one other thing that I want to add is that I want the Armenian community to think bigger. I think for a really long time, we were focused on and a lot of our policy bodies were focused on just the single issue of genocide recognition, which obviously that's very important, but we need to be thinking bigger. We need to be thinking about reparations. We need to be pushing for Artsakh recognition. Again, we need to be showing up and uplifting and centering other communities and other Indigenous communities and their needs as well. So I just want us as a community to think bigger and to get out of our box and out of our comfort.
I can pick up probably where Carene was going. I think the voices that we hear today in this forum and individually or among our organizations, I think that's necessary to continue. More we talk about these issues, new issues, more it gets out there and more traction it's going to get. So if we can think of where diaspora or Armenia was 10 years ago versus today, you can see, I'm personally encouraged because I can see the change that about the attitude. Still a lot of challenges out there. However, history is on our side. Progressive ideas always win at the end because that's how it is. We cannot stay in dark ages. All of these issues that everybody mentioned are important. We just need to stay focused, keep hammering, moving forward. Things are going to start happening better and faster.
I would add just one more thing is that we have a lot to learn from other communities, right? So like Carene was saying, like showing up for other people without it being just transactional, but also learning from other communities, right? And this is not, I don't want this to be seen as critical, but in the history of nonviolent social movement, you've had many communities oppressed just like us have radical change, right? Changing legislation, liberation movements, changing entire systems. And by comparison, if we think about the last century of Armenian activism and our success on genocide recognition, that makes what we're talking about concrete. So it's not just abstract, what's the difference between protest and resistance? Concretely, what is the sort of activism we're doing and what are the results of it? And I think those are things that we need to really absorb. And I think the hope there is that there are people who have been here before us and there are examples that have been set. And that's actually very empowering.
I'd like to add one thing too. By the way, I love what everyone has said. I'm all about it. It's awesome. But I want to just add one extra thing that I've noticed this last year, like a new dynamic with Turkish racism, Turkish nationalism, Turkish attacks on our community centers and our schools. That's been a new dynamic that I haven't experienced before here in California specifically. And all on top of it, getting the online attacks, let's say, which has made our online work even more difficult, trying to spread our work out there, reporting our pages. And so this has been another challenge that's come out of this 2020.
Thank you so much for all of your answers and your insights. I actually got a lot of questions, but unfortunately we don't have a lot of time. We have time for one more question, and the next question is, how do our leaders take care of themselves and their own mental, emotional health and overall health with what's been unfolding since September? So how do you take care of yourself? It's a self-care question, and again, I'm going to open it to anyone who would like to answer.
Obviously, we don't take care of ourselves.
That's what I was thinking too.
Everyone's like, alcohol? No, that's not a healthy answer. Well, I think it's everything that's happened since September, but it's also the context of 2020 and what 2021, what shit show it's been too, you know? So I think we're in the midst of all of it. But I think what, at least from what I get, you get motivation and inspiration from the people that you're working with and with the work that you can do, knowing that you can impact lives. And, you know, what I do in my day job, what I do for GALAS is all, it's about passion. And sometimes you feel burnt out and you just have to make sure you're surrounded by people who are your support system and can look at you and say, hey, time out, you need to take a break, or, you know, you need to just, you know, suss out what you're going through. I'm surrounded by social workers. So they're always like, if your cup is empty, you can't participate in life. And I'm like, I hate you all, but it's true. So it really is, you know, self-care. The stigma of therapy should be gone away because everyone has issues. Everyone should work through their things. Rely on your social network in a virtual, safe way, especially until you get vaccinated. That's my PSA for the moment. But, you know, I think that's just important, just to not get stuck in your head and to continue being mission driven, because I think that's what's really helped me in this moment.
I think for me, realizing that we have this community that's all going through a similar thing, especially with what's happening in Artsakh, has helped a lot with processing the pain and processing with what's happening right now. I think about all those Armenians out there who have lost family members, and then I see them on social media, you know, playing in the snow, these kids, while, you know, their dads just, it's because I know that they're all sharing in this pain together and it's helping them get through it. And I was able to reflect on that too here, knowing that all of us are kind of feeling the same thing, and it almost makes it almost a little bit more bearable. Thank you, everybody.
I just want to add to that, and going off that, I think it's important for us to still experience joy in this time, right? And that could be something that's really, really difficult for us because it is so traumatizing. And it's like our great-grandparents' traumas coming back to haunt us again in real time. But I think just even attending protests, you know, my friends and I would take buses to like DC and just go various places and being active and, you know, physically, mentally, and also connecting with people who resonate. Like I know Motto, just having phone calls with her, even when I was in DC, she got me through because she went through the 90s war and she was like, Carene, we got this, you know? And it really helped me keep pushing in the community around me. And also like crying and feeling sad and just drinking some wine and taking a nap and then getting back to work. But I think my work is what's really allowed me to be at peace with myself because I know I'm contributing to the greater good and pushing as hard as I can, and that's as much as I can do, right? And we all have that part to play.
I would just add that I think, oh, sorry, Sebu, go ahead. You first.
I apologize. Okay, thank you, Yerazad. So, of course, the initial shock was really out there for everybody, including myself, but we moved on. We moved on as the situation evolved. And one thing that I always think about is that as progressives, as activists, we cannot be anything but being optimist and positive. I always try to keep that in mind. I'm always motivated with that. Otherwise, we cannot really do much. So with that optimism and positive approach, this situation that we were put in actually probably gave us an opportunity to learn about our vulnerabilities. It was a kind of a wake-up call for things that we were not paying attention to. We start thinking about those things, things that were kind of sidelined because we were focused as activists or whatever, as Armenians, as human beings, you know. To me at least, it changed the whole dynamics, that changed the equations, you know. And probably we need to recognize that we have more work cut out for ourselves, and therefore we just have to increase our commitment to what we are doing and what we want to do, what we need to do to make progress. But optimism definitely is there, and you know, we have no option that's how it goes.
I almost want to leave it there because now I don't want to follow that. That was really great. It's so salient. But what I was going to add is that, look, when we're dealing with so much insanity, we need sanity. And so I'm making another argument for community and fostering long-term community, right? I'm very fortunate to be a part of the Kairos Peace community in New York. That's where I learned a whole lot about activism and nonviolence and social movement. And Seba, what you're saying is so important, right? Dan Berrigan, who was a giant of American protest during the Vietnam War, always used to say, where's the good news? Tell us the good news too, right? We need that. And, you know, we're dealing in effect with being collectively gaslit constantly, considering the efficacy of Azeri and Turkish propaganda and hyper-nationalism, the way that they're distorting things. And you know, Haig, you were saying that 2020 sort of marked a new shift in this, how we're being attacked. But I saw it as early as 2007 when they started having specifically anti-Armenian marches and rallies in New York, right on April 23rd, you know? And so we need to foster community. And I think that during this war, what I recognized was that our spaces, our shared spaces were becoming more and more toxic as things became more and more divisive. And this was driving many of us away from our community, our broader community. And so then the impulse became, hey, we need to foster a community for CAN, where we can start doing reflections together, right? Where we can regain our sanity together so that we're not just so effectively gaslit. So we feel like there's an anchor for us. And so for me, the how do you stay sane and how do you self-care? Nonviolence is very much about self-care. It's very much about dealing with the impact of that insanity and acting from a sane place. So once again, I would say we need to really foster community, find people who help us stay sane and make us feel less alone, and meet with each other, right? What I've recognized within our community is our impulse when we get tired is to pull away. I think we have to do the opposite. We have to get better at doing the opposite. Come together, right? Not pull away, but so there's a rule in martial arts too. When the limb gets too far from the trunk, it breaks. Bring the limbs back to the center, right? Come together, not apart. And I think that's really critical for all of us.
Yeah, I just wanted to add one thing really, really quickly, building off of what was just said. Something that I always hold on to and that I remember, because given everything that we've experienced, it's understandable that we are still mourning and in pain, and it can sometimes feel like, how is this going to get better? Is anything that I'm doing making a difference? Like, sometimes that can happen, and that can definitely, the doom scrolling and all of that can really eat at you. And one thing that a mentor said to me that I always hold on to and I always share is we have to understand and acknowledge that we are working towards and fighting for a future that we likely will not see, we may never see. And I think the important thing is to understand that and to be at peace with it, and to know that everything that you're doing is contributing to that, even though you may not get the gratification that you want.
Yeah, that's really beautiful. Just to add on to like what everybody has been saying, it's also extra difficult for people who are not within Armenian communities now during COVID, right? It's a mess, and when you don't have that community, it's like there is a lot of gaslighting that we might internalize, and that just can be really difficult. So if you're not with a supportive community, I'm not, so it's kind of difficult, right? But the way that I approach it is just to be proud of myself, and all the ways that I come into it, be proud of where I come from, listen to our music, and cook my food. So yeah, that's helpful for me, honestly. It's simple, and like, call your aunt, you know? So those things, and if that's all you can do, that's all you can do. But now more than ever, it's showing us that like our people, like nothing is guaranteed, right? Our home is not guaranteed. The people that we know and love, like nothing is guaranteed. Bigger, smaller, all those things. So yeah.
Thank you so much.
No,
Go ahead.
Are we out of time? Oh, I was going to
Uh,
say that, Karene's point about you may not see the results is so important in that, and that's really an important part of this work is we have to see ourselves as involved in some kind of a mystery, right? So like every time we interact with another person, even if that journalist doesn't write an article about us, we've planted a seed. We don't know when these seeds are going to crack open. And I just wanted to just share something really brief here. There's a quote: "Every question left unanswered or equivocated by the living appears in the next generation as an iron necessity. But a few men or women in every generation have the power to break the slaveries of that past that has been accumulated." To break the slaveries of the past that has been accumulated. We call such people saviors, and we are right. And I think that we don't know when we're going to break that baggage and when we're going to lighten it, but we need to act in the spirit of that mystery.
Thank you so much. So we wanted to, there's one last question, and that's a great segue into our closing. So someone said, I would like to get involved remotely because I live in a place where there aren't a lot of Armenians. So how can I get involved in the work that you're doing remotely? And so with that, if you can each take 30 seconds to just let us know how we can get involved, and also how we can get involved in person versus online, that would be fantastic. So we'll start with Carene, and we'll go in the same order that we went with the first question.
Yeah, definitely. So pretty much everything we're doing right now is remote. If you are in New York, Illinois, Texas, Washington, or New Jersey, we're currently working on specific things, but please also send us your information if you want to get involved. You can email info@yerazad.com, or you can email me specifically, Carene@yerazad.com. You can follow us on Instagram and Twitter, where we will be posting specific things.
So
Thank
if there,
you.
sorry,
Go
sorry.
ahead.
So if there isn't an AYF chapter near you, it is all across the country, but I know how it is to not be close to one. You can support our programs that are always going on. But in terms of a digital support and working together in that way, I'm the chair of this United Human Rights Council, and a few of the councils and committees within AYF you don't need to be a member of. I've had plenty of people not in AYF work with us, so you can get involved and work with us remotely easily and work on progressive Armenian issues.
I was going to say progressive Armenian issues used to be an oxymoron when I was growing up, so it's good to see it out in the open and really kind of out there. Again, same thing, social media, email us. We are going to be going into a strategic planning moment, so it'll be great to hear feedback from folks who are interested. So be on the lookout, join our listserv. Yeah, just find us on I know that the crew is going to send all our contact info out too, so I won't bore you with all the details, but yeah, so progressive Armenians unite. Let's really turn this upside, this patriarchy, let's break it down. Sorry. Okay, thank you.
Hi, everyone. I'm also going to go. So essentially, to get involved with Kooyrigs, number 1, follow us. Number 2, bookmark all our posts, because the Instagram algorithm changed. And if you bookmark it, it's more effective than a like. Just getting that in there. And also, we're going to be launching a blog website similar to a news website, but I will not call it a news website because it has all sorts of content, all sorts of features, and it's not live quite yet, but it will be live soon. So whatever your talents are, we have a way to help you apply that. If you're interested, email is most effective. DMs we're flooded with, and most of the time it's people who need our help and beneficiaries, so we don't have a chance to get around to it because we're addressing all the immediate concerns. But please do email us. We have an entire team of nearly 20 people in Armenia and in the US, all across the US, and whatever skills you have, I'm sure we can find a way for you to contribute through content, through community, or whatever it may be, through fundraising. If you make art, you can do a fundraiser, and then those funds can help save lives, quite literally. So we're here to help support you in that journey. Just follow us and reach out.
Seppo, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, I thought Mara was going ahead, but I will. Yeah, okay. The format of Zoravik is such that, it's member driven. As I mentioned earlier, it is non-hierarchical, and therefore the issues that are of interest or important critical nature by members are the ones that are being actively followed through, and that's how it works in Zoravik. We are looking forward. We are seeking forward-looking collaboration in spirit of progressive ideals. Okay, so we welcome people who would like to join in conversation, in activism, and therefore, connect with us. If you find our platform good for you, you can send through emails. Probably will work best, zoravik@gmail.com, but you can also send us message through Facebook Messenger, and we'll connect with you and would welcome you to join us in our journey of finding out what we can do to make things better.
Nice. Okay, next S here. Okay, so the ways you guys can join, or y'all can join Hye-Phen, write for us. Just write for us. I know something I've noticed doing this for a while is Armenians are afraid to share their opinions about things, or we think it's not good enough, or whatever the reason is, but we all have very valid opinions. So just share your words with us, share your art with us. Yeah, so that's mostly it. Share your thoughts with us, and hopefully in the future we'll have more like community driven experiences, but for now we're just focused on editing your content and putting it out there. So yeah,
Thank you. I think we skipped Mara. No, wait,
No,
we didn't.
yeah, I was you guys are going to share the information. All good.
Is it? Am I supposed to go? Okay. Easy. Instagram, it's Armenian Nonviolence. Email is joincan, CCAN. We are looking for people with very different toolkits, right? We need people who are legal scholars or lawyers to represent activists, to think through actions. We need researchers, journalists, writers. There's a form that we will send you as soon as you email us, so that you can identify what your skill is and how you can contribute. We're looking to build a nationwide coalition of people in every city, right? So that we can do coordinated actions when the time for that comes, when COVID is lifted. But really, I mean, just like Sevan said, just keep doing your thing. I think that's the best way to get involved with all of us. I'd like to see all of us on this panel, and all the people in the audience who I think deserve to be on panels, to become a bundle of arrows, because a bundle is harder to break than a single arrow. And I think that's why I'm so privileged to be here with all of you. And just email us, follow us on Instagram, and keep doing your excellent work.
Thank you so much. Now I'd like to hand the mic over to Sophia to close us, if there are any closing remarks.
Thank you so much, Susie. Thank you. And before we close, I want to take a minute to thank Susie and Hasmik very specifically, who is on this call, who not only helped arrange this panel for you today, but also helped operate it today. So can we all just do one, wonderful clap for everybody? As folks are mentioning throughout this whole panel, right, is that it takes a community. It takes us together. There were so many incredible gems that came out of today, so much hope that I feel genuinely in this next generation of the Armenian struggle, so many incredible voices that you all heard, right, leading our US Armenian community. And I cannot say it enough. Wow. I mean, really, wow. The brilliance in this room. And that brilliance, as many folks mentioned, right, is not limited to these panelists. It's also all of you here who are our audience members. one of the reasons why we all are out here, we're in the struggle, and it's called struggle for a reason, right? There are days that are very hard, is because we actually believe that we can build power, that we can build freedom, that we can build liberation, but it takes us together. It takes you. Today, you heard about all these incredible people doing amazing things, and you are an incredible person doing amazing things. And the difference between us being not free and being free is that we finally realize that we can do it together. Because we outnumber not only our enemies or the powers that be, but we truly, truly will not get free without each other. So I want you to take the lessons that you heard today. I want you to see all these brilliant people. Honestly, we're overwhelmed by the response of how many folks just keep coming back. And I want you to put it on your backpack like an invisible backpack, because we need it for the long haul. Y'all heard these incredible voices today. This is just the beginning. We know we have generations to go, but we can do it, because look at the brilliance in this room. Thank you so much for being here today. We're going to follow up with you all with the contact information of all of these panelists. We encourage you to sign up actually for Armenian Action Network, which is a literal network, which will be pumping out really important moments of connection amongst groups. So please know you have it all in yourselves. And the most important thing is when we realize the second we can connect it with the other people here, we got it. Thank you for being here. This recording will be up, and have a wonderful day, everybody.
Sophia, thank you for having us.
Thank you so much,
Thank
everybody.
you.
This was
Thank
phenomenal.
you.
To many more.
Appreciate you. To many more.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye.